Revelation 1447. From the 1st of June 1940. Original sin. Liberation. The most unthinkable opportunities are offered to man for his final liberation, but always the urge to sin is also felt in him, and therefore the will must be extraordinarily strong to resist it and to strive for liberation. So he must constantly be in a struggle with the desire in him, because this will mostly be directed to what is obstructive for the liberation of the spirit, otherwise the resistance would not be man's merit. It is true that human strength is not sufficient to bear this fight successfully, but the will lets man again request strength from God, who now also comes to him. Therefore the will must always be opposed to sin, if the liberation of the spirit is to succeed. Sin is everything that goes against the divine will, thus separates man from God. And man is born out of sin, that is, his soul is the union of spiritual entities, which renounced God out of their own drive and acted against his will by striving towards darkness and fighting the light. Their resistance against God has brought them the state of being banished, and therefore the soul is still something unfree, banished, which is only to make itself free through its own will during earth life. He must therefore first fight sin, that is everything that is directed against the divine will. The soul was embodied only for the purpose to have the opportunity for self-redemption, to give up its will, which has been directed against God since time immemorial, to fight against him and to finally strive for union with him, from whom it has emerged. Therefore no human being is free from the sin of the former rebellion against God at his birth. And therefore now also the word original sin is understandable. Man takes up the fight against his inherent urge against the light. He will always have to fight to reduce or abolish the state of darkness around him, and this fight will require his full will, but he will have an unmeasured amount of strength at his disposal, if he lets his will become seriously active and desires the strength from God. It is the will that God requires. If man gives his will to God, as his own, then God gives him his power to such an extent that he can completely free himself from his banished state, which was only the consequence of that sin. The will opposed to God. Every human being still calls the will opposed to God his own when he enters earthly life, but when he leaves this earth, he can give it up completely, that is subordinated it to the divine will, and this means for the being final liberation from his imprisonment which lasted for unthinkable times. Amen.